Learn all about living just outside of Guadalajara, Mexico, from John Pint in this video interview with expats in Mexico. So why Guadalajara?
Susie's family was living in Guadalajara by that time. They had moved from Michoacan to Guadalajara, so we wanted to be near them. And then we bumped into this beautiful place where I'm living right now, surrounded by trees and wild animals and birds, and we loved it, so stayed here.
Describe where you live now. What part of the city is it, and how long have you been there, and you have a house that you've built, or just give us a little bit of a taste for what your life is like there.
Okay, this is a rural community. So it's part of what was once the Primavera Forest. The Primavera Forest is this huge forest outside Guadalajara. And before it was all declared a forest, some communities were created on the outskirts of it. One of them is this one where I am, called Pinar de la Venta. So we actually really were part of the actual forest. And they created a kind of a community here where most of the people had a home for the weekend. And we came here and we said, wow, this is just the kind of place we want, it's like living in the woods. So we were able to buy property here with the money we had saved in Saudi Arabia. And we're located about 8 kilometers west of Guadalajara. I would say if your readers are interested in living in Mexico, that I would think that those who speak some Spanish or willing to learn Spanish would look for communities like this. Rather than being in among hundreds and hundreds of other English speakers all crowded around Lake Chapala. There are many, many places like this, and it allows you to get in with the local people and to really become acclimatized to Mexico, and forces you to improve your Spanish. So I think it has lots of benefits.
Did you buy a house there, or did you build a house?
Okay, we bought property with a house on it, and this house is not very fancy, but we're quite happy here.
Describe your house. How many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, approximate square footage? Do you have an orchard or anything around it?
Well, we have 2,000 square meters of property here, so most of it is all jungly and wild and full of creatures like we used to have 3 foxes that used to come visit us every night to eat fruit, which my wife would put out on a little plate. And in the back we have the condominio de los tlacuaches, as we call it, is the place where the possums live. So we have a community of possums in the backyard.
Possum Hotel.
Possum Hotel, there you go. Yeah, we have the Possum Hotel. And every night we are visited by hundreds of bats come to drink from our hummingbird feeder. So we're in contact with lots of creatures around here, and we like that. Like I say, we have fairly large piece of property, very green, and we have a little house here that only has well, let me see. I guess you could say that there's 3 bedrooms here, and 1 bathroom, and very tiny kitchen.
What year did you buy your house? Or the property?
In 1985. In fact, I can tell you an anecdote about that. Before we actually bought the house, and we had already made an agreement with the owner, I asked him, do you think I could sleep in the house overnight? I'd just like to get a feel for for sleeping out because nobody was in the house. So he said, yeah, you can go there and spend the night, sure. So I came here all by myself, and I spent the night. And the next morning, I heard this strange sound, creaking sound. It was like the creaking of many doors. And I thought, well, that is really weird. And then I kind of looked, and I could see the doors were actually moving. All the doors in the house were moving. And then I looked out the window, and I saw all of the trees were swaying. And finally, it hit me that there was an earthquake going on. This was the famous earthquake of 1985, the one that destroyed a big part of Mexico City.
Wow.
And I was out here, and by the time my mind got clear enough that, hey, I should be running for my life, and get to this house, it was over. It ended. So that was my introduction to this house.
What about the rest of Guadalajara? It's a wonderful city. It's the second largest city in Mexico, and there are a lot of expats that live there. What areas of the city do you think are great areas to live?
Well, you know something? I think what you should do is ask me about anything but the city, because we are the authors of 2 books, well, actually 3 books now, about beautiful places outside Guadalajara. In fact, our books are called Outdoors in Western Mexico. And I've been writing a column called Outside Guadalajara for the Guadalajara Reporter for many years. So I know nothing about Guadalajara, but I know everything about outside Guadalajara. So let me mention that Guadalajara is very unusual as a city, in the sense that it is located exactly at the point of where the 5 ecosystems of Mexico come together. So Mexico has 5 big ecosystems, and by some chance they just all meet in an area just around Guadalajara. I call this area the Magic Circle. It's 500 kilometers in diameter, with Guadalajara right smack in the middle, and it's a magical area for anybody who loves nature. So that among your readers, those people who would be coming to Guadalajara not just to enjoy the city, but might want to get out of the city and to get to know nature, the possibilities around here are extraordinary, and I would say for the whole world. There are very few cities where you can travel on Monday, go north, on Tuesday, go south, on Wednesday, go... Every day of 5 days of the week, go in a different direction. You will end up in a different ecosystem, meaning that you have different kinds of plants, different climate, different insects, different animals. So if you love nature, can you imagine the possibilities of everything that you can see? So this is literally, you can do this here. And I would say I called it a magic circle simply because Mexico has these magic pueblos, pueblo mágico. And I said, well, if these little towns are given this grandiose name of being magic town, then there ought to be some name for this area around Guadalajara, because there are not many cities in the world. If the size of this circle that I'm talking about is equivalent to the state of Kansas in the United States. Now, if you're in Kansas at any point and you start traveling, you can go 100 miles, 200 miles, 300 miles. And every time you look out the window, you will see exactly the same thing. Here, you go a short distance, and suddenly there's this monster canyon. Suddenly there's this volcano. Suddenly there's this lake, this waterfall. This is the experience of what you get in the around Guadalajara. And nobody talks about this. That's why I'm mentioning it to you, because I know that you are telling people about the area. Well, many of the people you got there are probably not interested in going anywhere, like most of the people in Guadalajara. They stay in the city all the time. But there are a certain number of people who actually love nature and like to get out and see something. If anybody who would like to get out and see something, this is a paradise. And I'm not exaggerating when I say paradise. I mean, you want to talk to specialists, talk to rock climbers, and they will tell you, Guadalajara is this secret place. Don't tell anybody. It's the most wonderful place for rock climbing that you could ever imagine. And they will chew your ear off for an hour about all the places where you can do rock climbing. It's very specialized stuff here. Then you go and talk to a whitewater rafting person, and they will say, don't tell anybody. But this area around Guadalajara is the paradise for whitewater rafting. And they will go on and they will do the same thing. They will talk to you all day long about all these rivers and waterfalls. Then you find these canyoneers, and they rappel down these waterfalls. They will do the same thing. And I tell you, this is very strange. But I mean, there is so much around here. It's quite remarkable.
Where's your favorite area?
Don't ask me that. Because there are too many. No. There are
Is
just
that like
so
asking which of your children is your favorite?
exactly. Yes. Yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, like I'm just writing a little article now for Mexico News Daily about a river, the river Jalpa, which is not too far from here, and we go over there and somebody says, well, there's this waterfall over there. So, okay, well, let me go see it. So I go down. Here's this gloriously beautiful waterfall, about 20 meters high, with nice pool of water down at the bottom. And I say, wow, that's really nice. She said, oh, that's nothing. There's another one just up a few steps up this way, following the river upstream. So you go upstream the river, and there's another huge waterfall, and this one has a chute where you can slide down. A water slide, but natural. It's totally it's nature. And this big beautiful pool at the bottom. They say, oh, there's another one a little further up. You go up, and so that turns out that eventually there are 12 waterfalls along a 2-kilometer stretch of this river. They're absolutely gloriously beautiful. Who knows about this? Only the local people. And I found this out over all these, many, many years here, that, I used to explore caves. And cave exploring was my really big thing, my weekend hobby. And I did that both in Saudi Arabia and here in Mexico. And I would go out looking for a cave based on topo maps showing limestone over in this area, and maybe we would find the cave, maybe we wouldn't find the cave. But believe me, on our way we would discover that there's this wonderfully beautiful place that it's absolutely incredible, and a handful of local people are the only people who ever go there or even know about it. So over the years I started writing about all these places, and I ended up finding hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of places like this.
And they're all easily accessible from Guadalajara.
No, unfortunately, easily accessible in rural Mexico, nothing is really easily accessible. The kind of vehicle that a person needs around here if they want to get out and see things is a high vehicle, like a truck, like a pickup truck, for example. And Mexicans get around in their pickup trucks just about anywhere. People who have enough money to buy a four-wheel drive vehicle are really they have the key to seeing everything. And many of these wonderful places are at the end of a rocky dirt road, with a 1,000-foot drop on one side and that kind of a thing. So, or muddy places. The roads are not all that great. Of course, because I've been doing this for so long, I have a big long list of places that are reachable by ordinary sedan, and where people can go camping and hiking and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But if you want the full gamut, of everything that's available around here, that type of vehicle is what I would recommend.
Since you live quite a ways from the city center of Guadalajara, I'm assuming that your cost of living is considerably less than if you were a city dweller.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That is one of the reasons why I was saying that if people take a look at communities like this, they might find out that, the cost of living goes way, 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 way down. Definitely.
Are there places to eat out there? Restaurants, a number of restaurants that you could go to that you can eat very economically?
Yes, yeah. There's a nearby town, La Venta del Astillero, has a very nice restaurant. Well, one or two nice restaurants that are extremely cheap. Yeah.
John, tell us three things that you love about living there.
Three things that I love about living here. Well, okay, I'll tell you that. Um, if you're thinking about, since we lived in so many different countries around the world, uh, I think that the friendliness, the general friendliness of Mexicans um, is extraordinary, and it might be the number one biggest attraction for being here, in the sense that you're probably going to be, you're going to know a number of people or bump into a number of people, and even the people you occasionally meet who come by to sell something or to help you, or I don't know what, that generally they are people who are genuinely interested in having a chat with you, sitting down and relaxing and getting to know you and finding out more than just doing business with you. And I think that this is rather unusual. There are, we've seen so many different kinds of people, and our system of living in a foreign country for at least a year and learning the language as much as possible and eating the food and so on gives us a pretty good, relationship with local people. And I would say that would be the number one, the most attractive thing here in Mexico is actually this. So this totally contradicts this image that people are getting by reading the headlines of about Mexico and about heads being chopped off and all the rest of it. The truth is this is totally the opposite. That the big attraction of being here is actually the warmth and genuine friendliness of most of the people that you meet. And so I think that this would be the number one attractive thing. And then for me, because I love nature and hiking and camping and stuff like that, the fact that I am out here in nature and have all of this available to me on the weekend is a second very, very big attraction. And also there is a kind of relaxed attitude that you don't have in the States, for example, in the sense that, when I was a caver in the States, we might be following a topo map and going out in the middle of nowhere trying to find this cave. And then suddenly, after 2 hours of hiking, we come to a fence. And all these cavers would look at each other and say, "Oh, look at that. Now we have to go back." Well, this would never happen in Mexico. It's a fence, and you would just say, "Should we go over it, under it, or through it?" These are the three choices for what kind of fence. So, and you go through that fence, and you go a few meters, and you run into the owner of the place. And he's not standing there with a shotgun. He's standing there, maybe with a shovel. He's working, and he sees you, and he throws the shovel down and says, "Where are you going? What are you looking for? How can I help you?" And he ends up inviting you to have frijoles and tortillas in his house. That is what typically happens here, and so this sort of relaxed attitude means that you can pick some mountain that you're trying to reach, and you might crawl through barbed wire fences 10 times along your way to that mountain without any worries and without any problems. And you are able to get to that mountain, whereas if you were in the States, you would never reach it. So
John,
those are
you've just really captured the essence of Mexico. That's really the reason why most of the people want to move to Mexico.
Yeah, and I would say the sort of laissez-faire attitude of not worrying about laws and rules and regulations, it has its good side and it has its bad side. And in some senses, you're just free of the hassle that you might get in other countries where there are all these laws and regulations about every little thing that you want to do. And here you'd probably not find any of those, or you'd find the laws and regulations, but none of them are enforced. Uh, so, like I say, but it has its disadvantages too, because there are some things where people go too far. And like, I'm very delighted now that here in Jalisco, right in this area, they are now making laws to try to control loud noise. And so people who have the misfortune of being right next to some cantina that is blasting out music all night long are now going to have some sort of a system by which they can control this. So I think that's good.
That's another essence of Mexico.
The noise.
John, thanks so much for spending the time with us today. What an interesting guy you are.
Well, it was a pleasure to talk to you, Bob.